This episode of the Mark My Words podcast is sponsored by Paint Care. Paint Care is the industry's own solution to the problem of post-consumer paint waste. Paint Care works with manufacturers, paint stores, consumers, and government agencies responsible for waste disposal to redirect the post-consumer paint waste away from the landfills and waterways. In 9 states and the District of Columbia alone, where Paint Care currently operates, they have already redirected more than 50 million gallons from the landfills. But Paint Care is not just good for the environment, it's good for paint stores. Of the dealers who have signed up to be collection sites for the Paint Care program, 23% report that when Paint Care consumers come in to drop off paint, they make an additional purchase. To find out more about this industry-sponsored program, go to paintcare.org. Hey everyone, it's Mark. Thanks for joining me today with another episode of In the News. That's all the news for independent paint retailers. Before we get started today, I just wanted to do a quick shout out. As I promised, I'm going to be recording all of these episodes for In the News or my regular podcast, wearing swag from dealers that send it to me. This particular hat and t-shirt come from JC Licht. That's my friend Elliot Greenberg in Chicago. JC Licht has 48 stores in Chicagoland. They are one of the largest Benjamin Moore retailers in the United States. JC Licht also has a full design department, which offers both in-home and in-store consultation. They sell wallpaper, window treatments, as well as festool and spray equipment. So JC Licht is growing with both the professional painter and the DIY consumer. Thank you very much to my good friend Elliot for sending the swag along. I appreciate it. And now let's get into the news. Benjamin Moore chose color number 1495, that's October Mist, as their color of the year for 2022. The Montvale paint maker, joining Sherwin-Williams, Dutch Boy, PPG, and a multitude of other paint manufacturers who have selected a green as their color of the year. And there's a reason why all of those companies are making that selection. According to House Beautiful magazine, greens in particular are associated with healing, tranquility, hope, stability, optimism, and harmony. Considering all of that, it is not surprising that the paint manufacturers have gone with greens as their color of the year after the 2 tumultuous years we've been through with the coronavirus pandemic. Greens are also Mother Nature's most neutral hue and are easy to make work in most decorative environments. In other news, as consumers continue their COVID-fueled march to purchasing paint and other home improvement products over the internet, Home Depot is recognizing that trend. The country's largest big box retailer recently reporting that they have partnered with Walmart's new final mile delivery service, Go Local, to deliver paint to consumers same day or next day, depending on their location. The program will begin in New Mexico, Texas, and Arkansas in the coming weeks, with the rest of the United States expected to be online before the end of this year. With a stated goal of offering same or next day delivery to 90% or more of their online sales, Home Depot is leveraging their enormous presence online. In addition to this program, Home Depot has announced that they are investing $1.2 billion in its supply chain to help the retailer meet this goal. Home Depot's picked an excellent partner to start with in selecting Go Local from Walmart. Over 90% of Americans live within 10 miles of a Walmart store. I encourage dealers to pay attention to the continuing trend of consumers buying paint online and having those orders fulfilled without ever walking into a paint store. While independent paint retailers continue to be busy with the added volume brought on by the COVID surge, as well as shortages in the stores at both Sherwin-Williams and PPG, the more DIY consumers trend towards online purchasing and contactless fulfillment the worse the long-term trend looks for the channel. Dealers and manufacturers which supply this channel have remained reluctant to invest in e-commerce, which they will need to hold on to market share as this trend continues, which all evidence shows it will. I don't want this to turn into a commercial for my Revolution digital package for paint dealers, but if you're a paint dealer who either does not have a website or your website has not been maintained or does not offer e-commerce, shoot me a text at 914-584-5889 and let me tell you what I'm up to help dealers compete. In other news, Sherwin-Williams announced that they recently purchased Specialty Polymers of Oregon. Normally, this is not the sort of item I would cover here. Specialty Polymer has no direct interests in the independent channel, but at a time when independent retailers are making bank on Sherwin-Williams being out of stock, the Specialty Polymer purchase adds over 50 million gallons of yearly manufacturing capacity to the world's largest paint maker. And that means that Sherwin-Williams is not planning on keeping the shelves empty for too much longer. Dealers currently seeing increased volume from Sherwin-Williams painters should begin with their manufacturers and local reps to design plans to hang on to this newfound volume. Sherwin-Williams is going to be coming back for these customers, and they're going to be coming back soon. And when they do, dealers and the manufacturers that they represent will need to be ready. In other news, a survey by Hearth, a leading provider of funding for home improvement projects, showed that demand for professional painters is up over 140% over the last 2 years. The survey represents data from both their own results of the thousands of people who use the company's website, as well as data from Google confirming the trend. This category, residential repaint, continues to be the bread and butter for the typical independent paint dealer, giving dealers reason for hope that the current influx of business that they've had during the COVID economy is more than just a short-term trend. On my podcast recently, I had the president of Worcester Brush, Ben Maybaugh, on with me. Ben shared that their research is telling them the same thing. Worcester is so confident that the high demand for coatings is more than just a short-term trend, that the company's oldest brush and roller manufacturer is doubling the size of their company, according to a recently announced expansion plan. The news means that both near and short-term trends continue to look strong for independent paint dealers. In other professional painter news, the Farnsworth Group just released their third quarter contractor index. This data supports the notion that there is currently high demand for professional painters. The Farnsworth data shows that 54% of the painting contractors responded that they expect the next 12 months to be busier than the trailing 12 months. Great news for independent paint retailers who have seen their best 12 months perhaps in decades. In the Farnsworth report, 95%, yes, that's 95%, of painters responding that they expect the next 12 months to see sales increases of over 5%. But let's dig into that a little deeper. The study also shared that 25% of those responded expected that increase to be 10% or more, with almost 40% of painters who responded forecasting increases over 20%. Finally, another 33% of all painting contractors who responded to the Farnsworth survey are expecting increases of over 20% for the coming 12 months. Painting contractors, though, do continue to face challenges relating to hiring, with 55% of respondents stating that they are not able to hire enough painters to do the work that they currently have. Over 25% of the respondents reported that if there were no labor shortages, they would be able to book an additional 50% more business if they could only get the painters to do the work. This, of course, is great news for independent paint retailers, though the labor shortages facing painters are facing independent retailers as well. Finally, speaking of labor shortages, the most common question I get from dealers who reach out to me is relating to wage inflation, labor shortages, and how they are affecting dealers' ability to remain open and keep their schedules full to meet current demands. Dealers call wondering what they can do to help their businesses stay fully staffed. One thing that you cannot do is fight macroeconomic trends. Prices in the United States are going up, and that includes the price for paint, with coating prices up in the 10% range already for the last year or so, and maybe as much as another 10% in the coming 12 months. While dealing with inflation can be frustrating for dealers, it does bring in additional revenue. I'm encouraging the dealers that I speak with to invest that revenue in their staffing problem. That includes both adding staff as well as paying existing staff a higher wage if dealers want to be able to retain them. While new staff coming in will need to be paid a higher wage to compete in the job market, it may be possible to retain existing staff by using bonuses, which is less long-term risk for the dealer. Bonuses can be handy in that they're easier to manage if this trend towards higher salaries turns out to be short-term. Bonuses are also a great way to keep your team focused on a specific business goal. But whether it's through bonuses, higher salaries, or better benefits, dealers are going to have to be prepared to spend more to hire and retain enough employees to keep up with existing demand. I wish that I had better news for independent paint retailers, but as I said at the beginning of this segment, you cannot fight macroeconomic trends. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, I know a lot of you guys are listening to this new format. I'm really glad that you're enjoying it. Keep writing to me, keep telling me what you want to see added here, and I'll be more than happy to include it in a coming episode.